Grafters by Colin Jones. 144 pages, published by Phaidon, September 2002. Let's have a look at the size. It's a lovely, just under 8 by 10, size of a good old-fashioned print. A little bit sort of different shape to an A4, just a little bit smaller, but it's that beautiful. I love this size. And this book is by a really amazing photographer. And to be honest, I'm surprised he hasn't got more books out, because some of his work is incredible. A lot of his pictures are taken from where I grew up in Sunderland and Newcastle. He's a very interesting guy, Colin, not just a great photographer. This book I recommend. I think anybody who's into traditional British photography, black and white, should have this on your shelf in your book collection. It's pretty easy to get a hold of, and you can get it on Photo Bookstore and A-Books and all the usual. So it's just a standard dust jacket. It's got nothing. It's got the Phaidon thing, but it hasn't got. Oh yes, it has got a little imprint there on the edge with the name, and that's it really. It's let's have a look. So we've got this front bit which says graft, British slang, noun, hard work, and then the derivatives of grafter, noun, a worker, especially a hard-working or long-suffering worker. So it's split into 5 different chapters: life, coal, ships, time off, dance. And there's an introduction by Mark Hayworth Booth. It's interesting that when you see the cover, which is like, you know, grafters, you make sense, working man, you can see he's part of that industrial age of man in the north. And then these sort of titles here, dance is like, how do you associate that with dance? And time off, maybe that's the sort of other side of this man and his work. Coal, ships, and life, which we'll find out. But dance is interesting because Colin used to be a ballet dancer. He got a scholarship like Billy Elliot, and he won it. I think he won the scholarship to the Royal Ballet School. So I think in terms of dance here, he's using dance as it's ballet. You know, you can see 121. There's a lot of ballet, and I think what he's trying to say is that it's an art form, it's a craft, and these people graft for their craft, and just like, you know, the working man grafts for their craft as well, in terms of their shipyard or their coal life and stuff like that. So I see the context he's putting it in. It means something to him. The areas mean something to him. I think in the 60s he was an observer photographer. I think he was a publicity photographer for a lot of bands, and I think he had some stuff with The Who. I know he did a lot of ballet dancing type publicity shots and editorial style shots, and then his general vision of life in post-war England, which I must say is some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful images. So each one of these chapters is accompanied with a poem by Orwell or Pablo Neruda. So each one of them's got a poem to go with it. And then we've got this index here, which is talking about the where the pictures are. He travelled all over the country. A lot of the pictures are in places like Benwell, Washington, the northeast, Newcastle, all of these places where I grew up, and then in London and Wales and stuff like that. So, and Blackpool and Liverpool and a lot of places. So there's a key at the back which gives you some insight. But there's a poem, like I said, here, that's an Orwell poem. That's to bring in coal from the road to Wigan Pier. And that's about all for text, really. There's nothing else to accompany it apart from fantastic pictures. So let's have a look at it. This intro here is by Mark, which I introduced, and some of the pictures there. And that sort of leads us into life and a William Morris poem from the March of the Workers. There they are who build the houses, weave thy raiment, win thy wheat, smooth the rugged, fill the barren, turn the bitter into sweet. All for thee this day, and ever, what reward for them is meet. Beautiful. That's life. So here we go. This straight one, this we're going straight in to, this is a shot in London. Let's just see if I can bring this down. What's that? This is a street entertainer in London. Well, this is in London, but this for me is one of the greatest shots he's shot. I just find, I know the area, I know exactly where he shot that. I've shot pictures in these streets, but it's that use of horizontal or vertical pages, and to put a beautiful picture like that in a small space just does my head in. That's what I want. Look at that, look how beautiful that is. Just, I'm cropping it, but look how beautiful it is. Isn't that just, isn't it just magical? Why on earth would they put a picture like that in such a small design frame when it is just incredible? That's in Benwell, Newcastle, in 1963. Beautiful. In fact, this one is King's Cross, and I think it was the last steam train to leave King's Cross. Amazing. Look at this. Oh, look at that. And this, children playing, Benwell again, and that's the streets where, down here, you see this area here, and you go down from Benwell, and you go right along this area, down the river road, okay, right up to the centre of Newcastle, right over there, and up here, and this is all Tishmertha territory. This is where Tishmertha took all her shots. I've walked down these streets, and I've photographed them myself, and it's incredible. Look at how beautiful. Look at the industry on the other side of the river. And that where the big shopping centres are now, the Metro Centre just down from there. But look at that, isn't that just a wonderful picture? There are quite a lot of verticals in here, so maybe that was the format which was decided on, because I think when you've got the horizontal, you've got to play with the verticals on that page. Like, you know, you've got a horizontal page, you'd have the sort of horizontal page like that, and then you have the 10A, the vertical shot. So maybe that was a decision to keep the verticals very big. And that's Mile End, and that is London, Washington, hanging out the Washington. Again, I think we're back up to Newcastle. So this is just general life, I guess, you know, just showing people living their lives, kids, old people, young mothers. That's again Benwell. And then we've got Jarrow, which is just not, it's not far, it's just a bit inland. As you're going up towards Sunderland and Bolton and that, you get Jarrow. And then this one's in Notting Hill. That's a bit of a contrast, isn't it? I think this was 1964 and this is 1963. And I think we forget how working class Notting Hill was in the 60s compared to now. Isn't that magical? Look at that shot. That's Bishop Auckland. Let's just look at the dog. Isn't that incredible? Beautifully shot. Absolutely beautiful. You know, look at the narrative you've got here, right? You've got the raincoats, you've got or Max, whatever they call that, I don't really know. So you've got two guys talking. You've got the dog, as the observer, the passive observer. Then you've got these group of guys here, and then you've got this guy here. Just, let's go right down on this, and let's just study this. This shot, you look at it from a distance, it looks really simple. But you've got so clever. Look at the decisive moment here. Look at the narrative structure in this. This group here, the guy observing us, and this sort of like shady guy looking behind him. What's the photographer doing? And you got this group of chaps in a sort of secretive group of chatting. And then you got these two, and you got this dog observing, really passive. And you could even count this guy in as the dog, and both on the outside. A coming together of a great choice of lens, beautifully exposed, and a man who understands forming of narrative in the shot. and bringing together elements. This is Sunderland. I think what these guys are, these are all the coal pickers, and I think from the coal searchers, and I think you go from here further down the coast as well, Hordon, Colliery and all that down as right, the sort of collieries on the beach, right down there, and then you go right up the coast through Sunderland, and because Monk Wearmouth, and then we're near the coast and stuff, but it will take you right up to somewhere like Ashington, and in Ashington and New Biggin and them places, there was a lot of coal searchers, and I think Chris Killip shot a lot up there. Mick Critchlow and photographers like that were up that area shooting. When is this? This, I think, is 62. So, you know, years later, Mick and Chris Killip and people like that were shooting the coal searchers up on the coastline further north. But this is 1962, so this is all the slag, is it? Or the slag? This is all the extra coal which has been delivered. I think here. What's this? 32. This, yeah, the slag heap. This is in Sunderland, and it's interesting when you come out of Sunderland and you head off towards Shiny Row and Penshie, you can see some of the man-made slag heaps which are now. Like, you know, they're sort of forming hills and stuff like that. It's incredible. And this is like 1960s. I think this is Hartlepool. How good is that? Look at the layering. Look at the light. We've got the foreground. We've got this line. We've got the background. It takes a certain time of day. It takes a certain understanding and perspective. And you're waiting, you're seeing this, but you're waiting of this. It's a sign of a genius photographer. Look at that. It's monumental. It's cinematic, isn't it? Again, that is such a surreal shot. And you've got, this is in Newcastle, 1963. You've got a guy in a hat and coat just walking down the line. Can you imagine that now? But look at the dynamics in that shot. Beautiful. This is Glasgow, I think. And the Gorbals, how desolate. Looks like the Wild West. I'm sure it was a bit like the Wild West, but it's just almost like it's like a Lowry painting, isn't it? Two Kids, 1964. County Down. Peter Lee. And we're back. This is Scotland. I think this is Wales. This is my hometown, which is where I grew up, Washington. This is 1962. I wasn't born then, but that is a circus next to a colliery. It's wow. And this is in Seven Sisters, and that's Seven Sisters Colliery in South Wales. Look how beautiful it is. Look at the dynamics of the washing line. It's just incredible. And that takes us into coal. This is a George Orwell poem. And here's that vertical again. Beautiful. Look at that. And this is a Welsh miner, the Seven Sisters mine. Oh, look at that. And this is in County Durham. This is in the Rhondda Valley, I think, in Wales. This is a bit later. It's like 85 and 1986. So this book really is shot from the 60s right up till about the 90s. But in reality, I think it's really about the 60s and 70s. There's a few shots in the 80s and a couple in the 90s, but really is about that sort of post-industrial life of the 60s and 70s, really. That makes up most of it. And when he was down there, I've been down in these places, and you've got to be really careful, and you can't use flash unless it's in an encased glass box, and it's quite a complicated thing. So the use of available light and lighting it is quite tricky, as you can see by this. Let's It's incredible. You can feel, I know that heat and that wetness. It's beyond belief. This is all in South Wales. Beautiful. Look at that. Look at the sort of backdrop to the land. Wow. And this is in South Wales. This guy has got some really powerful verticals, and I can see obviously why there's been that reason to with a format, but I still believe this is just beautiful. I still think the horizontal aspect outweighs the vertical on this. Look at the relationship between the housing and the industrial, like these are probably built for the coal mine, for the workers and stuff. Imagine your life down there all the time. This spot would be at 12 hours a day down there, and your life is just around this area. This is one of my favourite shots, apart from the shot one in Benwell. And this is a coal miner's wife picking up the wages up in Sunderland. It's fantastic, isn't it? It's just one of my favourite shots. I know that area, that route into Sunderland. It looks like the road into Bolton. Somebody's going to say I'm wrong, but I don't mind. Oh, it's just so beautiful. Ships. Look at that. It's like almost sort of like Russian Revolution artwork, isn't it? It's just like such a clever man, such an idea of tone and composition. And that's in Newcastle, Swan Hunters. So again, this is Chris Killip later on territory, and you can see some of Chris's work where he shot this. It's on earlier camera reviews. He's got a lot of pictures here. So this is in the 60s, and that's like the River Tyne there, and that runs along through to the city centre. So not far down there, you've got the Baltic and you've got the Tyne Bridge and stuff. And the ships literally, you're seeing Chris Killip's work, the ships are literally parked right at the end of the street, just like these huge structures. And this is literally where they're building it in Walkergate. And then you've got Wallsend and Walkergate all sort of joined together. It's an interesting shot. What's this one? Workers at Swan Hunters. It's interesting because you look at that and everything about that is just incredible. But I'm not sure the purpose of this shot. It's all out of focus, and I don't really get the format of that because we're not trying to create any sort of, it looks like quite a surveillance shot, but we're not trying to, we don't need to have this shot in. I don't know, not for me to say, but it's all really blurred. It's got a dynamics if you look at it through the LCD and you look at it from a distance. It's got the two guys, and you've got the togetherness there, and there's some uniformity with it, and it's beautifully composed. But it's an interesting shot to put in. Looking at the LCD, I can see that it does look dynamic, but when I'm looking at it flat here, it looks quite soft. Whereas that, it's just the crispiness of it, the contrast of it. It's just like a painting. This is literally the end of a shift in Dundee, and look at the structures here. Ah, it's just so beautiful. I think this is Dundee, isn't it? Yeah, it's the launching of the last ship built at the Dundee shipyard, 1979. As far back as that. Wow. Oh, look at that. Whoa, it's like something like the Beatles, isn't it? This is in Wapping, the Wall of Tobacco and Alcohol Dock of Wapping. Yeah, this is 1963. He's so ahead of his time, isn't he? Look at the shadow. Look at that. Fantastic. I can feel it's a little set up, as probably is that, but it's a bit of fun. And that's beautiful. It's great vision. I'd have that in my portfolio any day. It's wonderful. That's the cover. Let's just check. Yeah, it is being cropped. I thought that would be the back part, but it's not. This is a docker in Liverpool. Look at that. Oh, wonderful. And I think this is all in Liverpool now. So we've got time off, so I guess it's people doing their spare time, and this is Douglas Dunn, the young woman in rollers. So a young woman come to visit their married friend, waiting for their hair to set beneath thin scarves. They walk about in last year's fashions, stockingless, in coats and old shoes. If you want to read the rest, buy the book. Time off, time to celebrate. Get drunk and be happy. This is in Dublin, and I think this is overnight ferry. Sees a few drinks being had. So I guess this is the working man on his day off. We've looked at the working man, and we've looked at it in the context of industrial built-up areas in heavy industries, coal mining and ship building, and now we're looking at people, the grafters, having some time to sleep. I mean, they look beautiful, the format. The pictures are stunningly beautiful. I just think it's just too small for me, this. I want to feel these shots. This should be big and black with these two just sitting there. That's great, look at that. Definitely Martin Parr as well. You can see it all. I'm sure Martin Parr's a massive fan of this work. It's beautiful. This is Blackpool. The classic, look at that. The use of light is fantastic. The classic working man's holiday, isn't it? Look at that. Boarding boys sharing a bed in Blackpool. I think this is in the Outer Hebrides. This sort of structure we're going on there. It's fantastic. Oh, I just love the shot. I copied this shot a little bit in one of my projects. I tried to, and I didn't get that dynamics. If I got that dynamics on it, it would have made the last part of the edit. But the ones I chose about the bingo in the north didn't make the later edit. But they're fantastic. So, and here we're in the last chapter, dance. The lake, its waters hardened, hidden, compacted light, jewels set in a ring of earth. A black and white flying, the swan took flight, long necks of night, feet of red leather, and a placid snow flying over the world. Pablo Neruda, 04 to 73, from Swan Lake Dance. Now, you know what's interesting is how he's put, in this theme of working man grafters, how he's put ballet into that. Now, he was a ballet dancer, he understands the craft. It's interesting, it's got a place within the context of coal and steel and working man's like lifestyle, you know, in the 60s and 70s and 80s and such. But because I would say this is sort of like a middle class thing, isn't it? But or maybe he, in the context of grafters, somebody's worked hard, he's used it in this context. He's got, and even this book's not showing all of his work. He's got so much other work in other contexts with a sort of using sort of different parts of the community in the UK and looking at different things. And he's travelled widely, and he's got a lot of other stuff, you know, with music. So you didn't have to put the context of the dance within this context of the grafters. It's interesting. It's a great choice, but using this sort of symbolism, using the pain to go through the development of something in this context is the right place to have grafters. But it's interesting how it's symbolised in the working man. I love it. It's great. Challenge. I'm not a fan on these pictures being so small, like I said, but you know, they're beautiful. Real moments, aren't they, in time. He's got a famous shot. I think it might be in here, I think, with Nureyev in a pub in East End. And it's just like, it's just so normal for such an acclaimed individual, a big celebrity at the time. Look at that. So, a little insight, I think, into, a very special photographer. It's a very special book. But I think there should be more out there with Colin's work. I'd like to see a much more detailed look at Industrial Man. I think he's got some amazing images, and I can only thank you for that, Colin.